Oh, okay. So I want to say this right. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carla and I make videos on corporate soft skills, project management skills, really any kind of skills that help us survive this corporate society that we live in. I try to do it from the first generation immigrant perspective because that is my background. Today, I want to talk about a subject that I'm really passionate about and that I've struggled with myself for years. And this is how to find your voice in a corporate setting or in any setting really. What I mean by that is how to speak up during project meetings, how to provide input in large corporate staff meetings, how to ask questions or make a comment when you're at a meet and greet with potentially an executive or the CEO, how to raise your hand during conferences and ask those questions in front of potential clients and industry experts, and how to feel confident in your own voice and get rid of that fear of raising your voice. This is something that I've struggled with my whole life, very likely because I grew up undocumented. And so the way to survive for me was to make myself as small as possible, take up as little space as possible so that no one will notice me and question my existence. Eventually that really conflicted with my large personality, but it still had a big impact in how I presented myself and how much I had to work towards getting rid of that fear in my voice and being able to speak up and take up space and feel confident in myself and say, hey, what I have to say also matters. Potentially what I have to say will be good input. Or the question that I have, many people probably have. So I'm going to talk about the things that I did personally to learn how to find confidence in my voice. I really wanted to make this video to be able to share the things that I've done to get myself to a point where I now speak in front of anyone without much fear. I have about 7 tips. However, I am still a work in progress. So let's get started. One of the first things that I had to learn to not be afraid to speak up is to stop caring. It sounds really weird to say stop caring because it sounds like I'm saying stop putting in effort. That's not what I mean. What I mean by stop caring is stop caring to be likable. Stop caring what other people think. Because I think that is the biggest obstacle for us to just get over it and speak up. I think, again, one of my survival tactics was to be very likable, to be very people-pleasing in order to not create conflict. However, I had to let that go. And this isn't easy, right? It's much easier said than done. But in order to be able to speak up, you need to stop caring whether people like you. You need to stop caring that you're going to sound dumb or that potentially what you have to say has already been said or that it was obvious, that everyone understands it except you. So what you're going to say makes you feel like you're the only one that's unprepared, which is absolutely not true. I've found several instances where I just raised my hand and at first I would apologize and I would say, I'm sorry for asking this question. I'm sure it's been asked a lot, or I'm sure someone already said this, and then I say my comment or my question and it turns out that 5 people on that call had the same question. So first tip is stop caring what people think about you. Stop caring that potentially you're going to sound dumb because it'll really set you free. And this is something that it took me 5 years to get to the point of some people are going to like me. Some people are not going to like me. Some people are going to hate me. But it's okay. There are millions of people in this world and not everyone has to like you. You have to find your own self-growth, your own self-confidence, your community, your people that support you in order to have this kind of internal sense of confidence, an internal sense of self. That's it, really. Being able to know yourself very well, knowing that you do things with good intention, you work hard, you're a good person, and knowing that ingrained in yourself and in your soul, it helps you kind of not care or start not caring what other people think or not caring whether other people like you. The way that I stopped caring about sounding dumb was kind of similar, actually. It was finding that sense of self. And my sense of self knew that I'm an intelligent person, that perhaps it takes me a little bit longer than others to learn things, and that perhaps I need to learn them in a much more fundamental way. But that doesn't mean that I won't learn them. And that doesn't mean that I lack in intelligence. And knowing this from a very self-worth place helped me get over the idea of, oh, I'm going to sound stupid if I say that question, or if I ask that question, or that comment doesn't make any sense. I shouldn't say it out loud. It really made me get over it, because essentially I was thinking, well, I'm an intelligent person. If this isn't a good question, that's okay. It doesn't really matter. It's the question that I need answered in order to do a good job in whatever it is that I'm doing, or to understand the subject that we're talking about. So my second tip is to practice. Find clarity in your voice. Find the way you ask questions and say it out loud. Do it in front of a mirror, doing it in front of the camera. I used to do it in front of the mirrors all the time, and then I would ask a coworker or someone that I trusted to listen to me as I practice. The next tip I have kind of feeds into this practice, and it's be prepared. I always kind of found myself at meetings absorbing information, but not coming to the table with something. And you don't always have to do this. Some meetings are just about absorbing information. But I found myself not growing when I didn't come prepared, when I didn't bring to the table some input. And then I would leave from that meeting with all this information that I had absorbed, go back to my desk or go back to my office, and then I had all these questions that could have been answered during that meeting. A lot of the time, you can get a lot of input from the various people in that project if you come prepared to a meeting and you have some input, or you have already questions prepared about the specific subject that you're on. My next tip is to work on your delivery. I know this sounds like practicing or being prepared, but it's not. Practicing is saying things out loud and working on your voice, your command. Being prepared is knowing what you want to say. Working on your delivery is essentially how what you practice and what you prepared gets delivered. See, I should have worked on my delivery right there. But essentially, getting rid of those filler words, being able to work on your clarity, that is very important. For example, I ask questions in a very roundabout way. I don't know why I do this. I think it's because I try to ask questions in a way that is not too direct so that I don't put people off. And I should really stop doing that. So I'm trying really hard to work on that delivery where I get rid of the filler words, I am more direct, and I provide enough context so that people can follow me. So if I can ask that question, or I can provide that input in a very concise but clear way, it will help my delivery. And if I continue to do this, I'm practicing it, and it will help as I grow into, the corporate executive that I want to become. We'll see. And so being prepared, practicing, and working on your delivery are going to help find your voice, because you're continuously working on bringing your voice to the table. Does that kind of make sense? See, that's bad delivery because I'm questioning myself. I should have asked, do you have any questions on that? But there's nobody here, so. Another thing that I did that helped me a lot was joining external activities where I could practice these skills. So I was part of a lot of professional organizations early on in my career. Now I talk to a camera, and it really helps me practice speaking and delivering my point in a concise way. But if you join a professional organization, it's more of a setting that where you're already uncomfortable, and it's a very kind of corporate setting, but in a way that if you fail, it doesn't really matter. That's something that I did. It also helps you with public speaking, because potentially if you take on like an officer's title, you'll have to lead meetings, provide statuses, potentially give speeches, etc. at these professional organizations. So it's a good way to do it. I know that it is very often where we're in these meetings that get kind of monopolized by one or two people who dominate the conversation. And it's more like you're getting talked at versus being talked with. And I think the important thing there is knowing that this isn't uncommon. This isn't just your situation. There's something that happens industry-wide. And so sometimes it is very difficult to practice these tips when you're in a meeting like that. But I always find that when I speak up during those meetings that are being monopolized by one or two people, then other people start speaking up because they see like, oh, that person spoke up. I can do it too. I can provide my input now. And kind of giving each other a sense of a team and being able to speak up during these meetings, it's really important. You'll see it happening more naturally as you practice. You find your voice little by little. It'll just come naturally. My other tip is to find kind of a community or one coworker that you get along really well with, or a mentor. You don't need to be friends with your coworkers, but they do end up being a community because you spend so much time with them. So I essentially had a really good community, and I would go up to them and ask them for feedback. How did I do there? Did my question make sense? What could I do to make it clearer? Eventually, these tips, because they're in those meetings with me, so it's not someone who is giving me all these tips that they're not seeing me in action, are really valuable. Obviously, you have to kind of swallow your ego and your pride a little bit, because sometimes it does hurt, and they'll be able to say something like, you didn't do very well, I didn't really understand your question, and you're just gonna have to work on it. But know that it comes from a good place, essentially. That's why a sense of community can be important. My last tip is be genuine. The hardest thing to do is putting yourself out there. Vulnerability is a very difficult thing to do. When I started speaking up, when I started asking questions, I brought my personality with me. And it made me feel this great sense of comfort and security in myself when I did that. I stopped coming to the table wanting to impress and caring what other people thought. I stopped coming to the table wanting to say something just to sound intelligent, just to prove my worth at the table. When I started coming to the table from a genuine place, from a place of, I really want this project to succeed. I have this question and I honestly believe it would help everyone if we get that answer. When I started doing that, coming from a very genuine place, I stopped putting up an act that made me nervous, that made me less confident. And I just kind of had this sense of security in myself. And it's a very difficult place to find. And it comes with a lot of going to therapy, taking care of yourself, self-care, a lot of work in oneself. It's kind of funny how your personal growth is very interconnected with your professional growth. That's another video. Anyway, so that's my biggest tip, is be genuine. Come with the frame of mind of, I'm here to be part of the team, and these are my questions or these are my comments that I genuinely believe would be good for the project. Anyways, those are my tips on how to find confidence in your own voice in a corporate setting, and how to come to the table, how to bring yourself to the table in a genuine way. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you come back for the next one. Bye, everyone.